Welcome to the Grappling Grappling Rewind Podcast.
Welcome to this week on the Grappling Rewind Podcast. In this week's show, we're going to preview GrappleFest 12 and also recap the Faith and Violence Tour #1 that was headlined by Giancarlo Bodoni and Elder Cruz, and actually a rematch that kind of went similar to the previous one. As always in the show, I'm your host, Maine, my co-host.
Miranda.
Hey, Miranda.
Pretty good. How are you?
Doing pretty good. So, full disclosure, Faith and Violence Tour, the video just came out like a couple hours ago, and so we tried to parse through as much of it as we could in order to do some breakdowns because it was kind of an event that caught us off the radar. Yeah. We'll get more into that when we cover that event, but we're not going to get a chance to cover all of it because we're trying to find results and do some other stuff. But the main event was really interesting. Also featured on the card was Hasim Rida and Isaac Michael.
Yep.
So definitely go back and find that this week. But before we get into that, a little bit of news. Not a whole lot of news this week.
No, not really.
Really just that JT Torres jumped out of a hiatus. I think it's been a while.
It's been a while. It's been since trials, probably.
Has it? Wow. I mean, since ADCC.
Yeah. Or since, championships.
Now, that couldn't have been the last time he competed.
He didn't do trials.
Well, he's a champion. He's a 2-time champion. So he would never do trials again.
I mean, you're supposed to do trials.
No, not if you're a champion.
Okay,
not if you're the reason that Calasands had to redo trials was because he pulled out late from ADCC. And that's like a big no-no. So even though he's a former champion, that's why Claudio had to do redo trials.
I'm a fan that you should compete as much as you can.
No. So JT Torres came back this weekend. He entered in. You have the notes here in front of me.
Yep.
What weight?
Yeah. Medium heavy.
He won medium heavy.
Yeah.
And then entered in the absolute.
Yeah.
And he beat the South American trials winner.
João Costo.
By points, I think 13-0.
No, 13-0 and then knee barred him.
And then knee barred him.
Yeah.
Which is... goddamn, JT Torres is real fucking good. And JT's a guy that he doesn't compete a ton since we've been doing this show, but whenever he does, it's always like, God damn, you're really good. He just kind of comes, not out of nowhere. It's kind of disrespectful to how good Torres is, but he's a guy we just don't see like very frequently. We see him on a fight to win occasionally.
I did a seminar with him like in the middle of COVID, like literally like in the middle of like everybody thought we were going to die. Like it was him and I
had no idea about
this is
a new story for me.
No, so I did a seminar with him and the other Atos guy, the guy like Hanger.
Josh Hanger.
It was him and Hanger at Logic in Philly.
Huh.
And it was like, you don't really tell anybody what we're doing, and we're going to kind of sneak in.
And we're going to have a seminar.
And it was a 2-day. It was a 3-day.
Oh, I remember hearing about this. Yeah.
And because I couldn't come back to the gym for 2 weeks after we did it because I was told that I was like banished because I could have caught something coming from.
Yeah, because that was the beginning of everything.
Yeah, he came in and he was like, I play video games, and he was talking about like all he's been doing was playing video games.
Because he just started his gym there, and then everything got closed down.
And then everything got closed down, and then he was like big time into video games.
But good for JT Torres coming back again. I assume we're going to see him maybe
he was fun.
Little more.
He's a good seminar, or go up to Essential and train with him.
He has a lot of like really good. Whenever I watch him speak or like talk about technique, he has a lot of like really good breakdowns. So again, cool to see JT Torres. I haven't got a chance to pull the footage from it yet, but I assume that Flo's going to have a highlight up or has a highlight up of that already from something. So cool to see JT Torres coming back. In other news, the Rotolo's announced that they are in Singapore as well. Have
they moved or are they
I don't know. I think they moved. I think
just
they're over there. They're going there 2 weeks in advance to go.
Because I heard some interview with them a long time ago where like their big thing is they want to like surf. So like as soon as they can, they just want to move to like South America and surf and do jiu-jitsu. That's like all
they do. They go on big trips. I think to like Costa Rica. I think, and they just do hella surfing.
I wanted to jump into the one that they did with
that one looked really
monkey
good.
Hands,
gorilla hands,
monkey hands.
Majid Cage.
Yeah, because it looked fun. It was cheap too. It wasn't. It was expensive.
So they are over there. We're gonna probably preview that next week. That will be Cade versus
Tonin.
No, Shinya, not Shinya. Yeah, Shinya Aoki.
Yeah, Shinya
and that
Aoki.
will be Gary Tonin versus Ty.
Yeah,
and so we'll preview that next week with actually Austin's coming on the show next week.
Yep.
So that'll be fun.
Yeah, I'll be away.
You'll be away. You in Mexico?
Yeah, I'll be in Mexico.
Good for you. And then other than that, I think, do we have any additional news this week? It's been kind of a quiet week overall, aside from, the Twisted Church event that we're going to cover here.
Yeah, nothing else really going on. I think everybody's kind of in preparations for ADCC, trying to see what they can get Done.
We're booking everything this week. Some other events coming on. So
I'm gonna book it after I come back from Mexico because
that's reasonable. So let's move into the recap. Again, we're just really going to talk about the main event here for Twisted Church, or Faith and Violence Tour, their first event. It's an event out of Ohio that kind of caught us off guard. And it's a $5,000 purse.
It's in Circleville, Ohio, which is an hour south of Columbus, because I have to go close to that for work all the time.
Yeah,
it's a wonderful place, let me tell you.
So on that we had Isaac Michael, we had Hasim Rida, we had Giancarlo Bodoni, and we had Elder Cruz as well.
Yeah.
And so
it was a 5K purse for the winner.
I think was it 8-man? I think it was 8-man.
I think it was an 8-man.
8-man or 6-man. I don't really know. Again, we got information last minute, like today and yesterday. I was pulling stuff because Gordon actually made a post, and I saw it was Giancarlo Bodoni and Elder Cruz, and I was like, that is not footage from trials.
Yeah, and I saw a picture of Elder Cruz with his head all taped up.
Right. And
I remember looking at it and being like, what the hell was that? And I was like, oh, did he just enter in some random like local tournament and just take the money?
Well, I watched because Gordon basically made a post. What spurred this whole thing off, and we'll talk about it at length because we have just previews in this one thing we're going to cover today. So I saw Gordon's post and was basically complaining about a specific scoring in the match that we'll get into. And if you haven't seen the match, go find the match on YouTube. It's Faith and Violence Tour number 1, May 14th, 2022 from Twisted Church. At the end of the video, there is the finals match between Giancarlo Bodoni and Elder Cruz. It is a rematch of their ADCC trials match, East Coast Trials match 2021 in the finals. So this is also an ADCC event, and Carlos Diaz flew out to it. Actually talked to Carlos at length about this particular sequence. And Gordon Ryan posted on Instagram that basically, like, oh, there's a rules issue. And in the comments, it was back and forth. And I kind of, because Miranda and I have both taken the ADCC rules seminar, and we're both certified as Class C referees, talked to a Class A referee, and Carlos Diaz like, hey, this is what I've seen.
How do you become a Class A referee? Like time?
I actually don't know. I should ask Carlos about that.
I'm curious how we get out of our Class C status.
I want to get Class B.
You want to be
the one Class
you
B
guy. You want to be the B team?
Be a B class guy.
B class guy.
And in this sequence,
are you gonna ref for IBJJF because they're hiring?
No.
On their registration page, you can sign up if you want.
I want to take the referee course for them because I think it would be valuable to do that. But I need to study the rule book, and I don't want to do that before ADCC because it'll get kind of convoluted, and I'd much rather get more proficient at the ADCC rule set than I would at the IBJJF right now.
Okay.
So there's a sequence that happens, and you can score the sequence a couple of different ways.
Yeah.
So they go back and forth. It looks very similar to their first match at trials.
Yeah, we watched both of them back to
back just to kind of compare them, and super similar dynamic where Elder Cruz knows that he has the edge in the wrestling.
Yeah, he does.
And he can kind of leverage that. Again, both guys are tired. They've both gone through multiple people. I want to watch the whole event, but I haven't had a chance yet.
Yeah.
And you see that Cruz is consistently kind of doing the same thing he was doing at the North American trials. Yeah. The first trials
blast
double, kind of getting Bodoni down and like forcing him to defend. But Bodoni is also kind of trying to implement more wrestling. We see less of the straight up high collar tie than we saw in the North American trials matchup between them.
Yeah.
But we do see Bodoni, whenever he's on the bottom, trying to kind of use the same sequence that he used to get Elder Cruz's back at ADCC trials. That match ended up with an almost score for Cruz off a blast double, and then it ended up with Bodoni being able to take the back off of like a half guard slide by and get 3 points with the body triangle.
Yeah, because he kind of hit his side, hit his hip, and then he passed him by and kind of came up behind him.
And that was the only score for their North American trials match. In this match, you saw the same thing. So the sequence that we're going to talk about is the kind of the main thing that happens. Bodoni, from the collar tie, shoots a pretty weak shot.
Yeah, and I don't know what it kind of looked like he was going to tap, like a knee tap.
Yeah.
But he didn't really have the...
Well, that's what he goes. And then immediately...
Yeah, I'm trying to like figure out how... Like, it was almost like he was too deep on a knee tap.
Yeah, he's almost head to hip almost.
Yeah, he almost came in like you would for a double to be underneath him and kind of knock him over.
And he'd been kind of looking for that early in the match, so playing up the timing. It's late into the match. It's a finals match, so I think it was... The whole match is like 25 minutes long, but there's some injury time in there. There's some other stoppage time in there. I think it's a 20-minute match, which would make sense in like a big finals event. But there's also no timer on screen yet, and again, because of the time we're recording this, haven't had time to fully go through everything with a fine-tooth comb. But then immediately off that, he pulls.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty clear, like, I'll drop the leg, it's immediately not there, doesn't even drive for the leg. And the rule for ADCC is if you are in a final match, which is what this was, and if you pull guard, you are assessed a negative point.
Yeah.
So being Bodoni, and he had the initiative in their first match from the bottom, he's kind of looking for the bottom because Bodoni is a very, very good guard player, and he was successful with that versus Cruz. He goes in for the knee tap and then immediately sits into like kind of like a butterfly, half butterfly.
Thinking he's going to pass Cruz like he did at trials.
But Cruz, as Bodoni is doing this, kind of also counters with his own kind of lift and kind of slip to the side. And they end up in this weird position where it's almost a clean takedown for Cruz, but Bodoni does the right thing, gets up on his elbow, gets the shoulders off the mat, but he's still sitting on the mat. And Carlos Diaz basically was like, how long does he sit on the mat for? And I was like, oh, he sits down there for about 5 seconds. And you counted it about 5 seconds too.
Yeah.
So in that situation, you can score it either two ways.
Yeah.
You either give Cruz the control in that takedown
and give him
2 points, or you see it as a guard pull for Bodoni and you assess him a -1.
Yeah.
And then basically what Gordon was arguing was that there's no score. Or what a lot of the comments in there were arguing with basically, had he gone to turtle and had Bodoni been able to get off his butt and get to his knees, it would be non-scoring.
Go to turtle, but there was at least a 5, if not a, let's say 10-second break from him hitting the mat to him turtling. He didn't like initially
fully
turtle.
turtling, yeah.
He like turned to his side. Cruz kind of
collapsed his hips.
Yeah,
he collapsed his hips kind of
and
to the mat
shoulder.
a little bit.
Like on this match on ADCC, he grabbed his bottom leg, almost like wrestlers do when they grab the leg and they put the leg over the hip. It's called something.
But in that match, Bodoni was able to keep his ass off the mat.
Yeah, he kept his ass off the mat. But part of that was because he had that one leg and he was holding that one leg back as you would in wrestling to your hip, because they're not going to turn to their back in wrestling. They're going to spin the other way. So it's a control situation. Where in this situation, he just went to his butt.
And so either way, when you score that,
hip heist, I think it's called.
Hip heist.
Yeah.
Either way, when you score that, it's a -1. And when I watched it, I went, I think that would actually be like, it's a pretty clear pull. It could be an intercept from Cruz, but like it looks like Bodoni.
There was no push through.
Yeah.
And it looked like as soon as he hit Elder, he was like, oh, fuck that, I'm sitting. And that was the reaction.
And the rule for ADCC, if you're kind of unaware, is for a takedown. And ADCC has significantly different rules than almost every other grappling event we cover, but we're lucky enough now that more and more events, especially in Nogi, are using the ADCC rule set. And so we're getting a chance to see it. And I love that Twisted Church is using the ADCC rule set, because I think it's it's the premier Nogi rule set.
Yeah.
So we're getting to see, again, Elder Cruz is in ADCC. Giancarlo Bodoni is in ADCC.
Yeah.
Like, Cruz just got an invite middle of April. I think April 13th, you said?
Yeah, it was April.
April 13th just got an invite. Bodoni won East Coast Trials for North America. Like, both these guys are ADCC. I want to see them and have more experience in ADCC rule sets so that we don't see this at the World Championship stage. And so the match goes on, and there's a little bit of injury time before that, and there's some other sequences there where both are kind of working takedowns, but that was the biggest moment of the match, and Giancarlo is assessed a negative for that. And you can make an argument, but I think it is difficult to make an argument that it would be no score, because Bodoni is not able to get to the turtle, and in ADCC, if you initiate and then you do not drive through the takedown for 3 seconds.
Yeah, it's considered a pull.
It's considered a pull. Like, they talk about it in the rules meeting, like Nicky Rod, how he drops his knee to the mat.
Yeah.
Like, even if he's standing,
and that's
it's still a pull,
it's like a lazy wrestler move where they put one knee down and then they kind of attack from there. Mostly like larger wrestlers.
Yeah, and Nicky Rod is a plus 99 guy. Like, he uses it very strategically to bait you into, but they talk about that rule.
Yeah, but you can't put your knee down for long periods of time, right? Because you'll get called on.
And so anything essentially but the soles of the feet, kind of like an MMA rule, is considered to pull. And Bodoni is down off of his feet for more than 3 seconds off of that takedown attempt. Yeah, it's considered a pull. So that's how I saw it. There's definitely an argument that you can give Cruz 2 points here, but I think there is a hard argument that you would not score this in some way and have it be no score. Yeah, because of the initiation from Bodoni on that. So that's the whole sequence.
It's
you should, as somebody listening to this show, you should go back and watch it and tell us what you saw.
Yeah.
Because, again, I'm wrong, not infrequently. And these kind of rules questions, especially with a rule set like ADCC.
And these are definitely, everybody sees it a little bit differently. Because I would say it would be a -1. It wouldn't be 2 for Cruz, only because Cruz didn't initiate it. But
I don't think initiation matters on a takedown.
Yeah.
For ADCC.
No. But it does for, like, IBJJF.
Yeah.
Yeah. It does in other rule sets. The initiation is and I think there is some rules, but I think it's more like sweeps and reversals. For
like if you, for ADCC, initiation matters if you counter a double leg with a guillotine.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to score a takedown on that.
Yeah.
Because your counter, they talk about in the rules meeting, it's a specific counter. Like, you're not going to give you takedown points if you're trying to guillotine the guy that's taking you down.
Yeah.
On that, because you're countering, you're defending a takedown there, and you're trying to do something with it, but you're defending.
Yeah.
So
makes sense.
Interesting match. Again, there's a couple any kind of more on that match you want to talk about. It looked really similar to the North American Trials match.
Yeah, it was very, very similar, but it also showed that Cruz must have been watching enough tape to know how to kind of settle his takedown once he landed it.
The other thing that was
because he didn't make the same mistake that he did at Trials.
Yeah, when Bodoni was on the bottom for this match, because there was a takedown early in the match as well that Cruz hit like a nice blast double before points.
Yeah, but it was a good double, but Bodoni didn't really try to beat himself.
No, because it's early. He's like, I'm happy to work from the guard.
I'll sit now.
And again, strategically, like you let a wrestler take you down early in ADCC because the first half of the match is non-scoring.
Yeah.
Like it will weigh in the judge's mind, but it's non-scoring. It doesn't really mean anything.
But if you want to pull, then it gets you down.
And that's where Bodoni had success before. Yeah. So Cruz is something interesting in that sequence is that he had I wouldn't say he had a heavier underhook on the side that Bodoni used to get around him in the Trials match, but he was a little more upright, and he was more diligent about preventing Bodoni from taking a deep underhook. Yeah. Like, he wasn't leaning in to take a strong underhook himself.
Yeah, he knew the arm drag was coming.
Yeah. It was just really interesting. Like, Cruz never really let his hand ever cross over to defend on the inside.
Yeah.
He would always keep on the outside of Bodoni's arm or on the hip, or like kind of keep winged on Bodoni's backside when Bodoni was in the bottom of the half guard. And it was just an interesting adjustment watching those two matches back to back, where it's like, oh, that's the one area he had success on you. And that's kind of similar to what Rida did. He's able to get around Cruz in their match the same way. Unfortunately, we didn't see the Hasim Rida versus Elder Cruz rematch, which is a rematch that I'm super excited for.
Yeah.
Hasim Rida was in this. We saw him get heel hooked.
Yeah.
I forget who heel hooked him.
By Nick Creighton.
Yeah, 10th Planet guy.
10th Planet St. Paul purple belt.
Yeah.
He seems to be a heel hook guy, so.
Yeah.
Hasim Rida has some legs.
Oh, yeah. And again, the beginning of the match was really good. Rida looked, I mean, for the pieces that we could watch.
He had his back at one point. I mean, he had control, but all Creighton.
Mike was able to get to the legs, and then gets like a really neat. I wish the camera was a little more kind of turned to the sides because it's kind of hard to tell, but does a really good job because Rida tries to push off and kind of get his legs out, but he's able to keep the legs in and like keep the knee line controlled enough and really good leverage on the low side of the outside heel hook to get Rida to tap. And I also missed Isaac Michaels' matches. We scrolled through the match. It's about almost a 4-hour event.
Yeah.
We scrolled through some, but I couldn't really find where he fell out in the bracket, and I couldn't find a bracket or a results page yet out for the event. So we just, right now, the show comes out in 3 hours. We don't have time to continue to parse through everything.
Well, and they are doing a next event in, I think it's October.
I think
it's going to be
something like that.
And it's going to be $10K.
Which is really big money.
A big money for a grappling tournament.
Yeah, and again, I like the use of the ADCC rules, especially because we have in this tournament 3 guys going to ADCC.
Yeah,
you have 3 like big level guys fighting for $5,000. That's like, I like to see that. That's more events should use the ADCC rule set, especially if you're doing Nogi, because it's the biggest, best organization in the world that features the top talent. You can emulate that. You can give the people in the community more experiences to fight in that rule set because that's the biggest one. So it also typically makes fun matches as well because you got to continue to fight, and they've built in a bunch of rules that work really, really well for activity. So what you looking up? In
2 weeks is Fury Grappling.
Oh, May 30th.
They just started booking their matches, and Sean Brady is who beat
Craig Jones.
Yep.
And he's going against Ben Saunders.
He's going against Ben Saunders. Clay Guida is coming back against Alec Caceres. I can never say Caceres.
That actually should be really fun.
That should be fun because both of them are crazy as hell.
Caceres has a really fun bottom game and a great triangle game.
Neither of them stop moving.
No.
And Guido will come out in his
his singlet.
Yeah, singlet in his wrestling shoes.
Yeah, that should be fun.
And then J-Rod versus Achilles Rocha.
Yeah, that's a fun one.
We could probably go to this one.
We should. We're going.
Yeah, the 28th. We already have plans. 28th.
Yeah, but
during the day.
Evening,
but we could do this.
That evening, we'll go up.
Earl Small is a local guy. He's going against. He's a fighter.
So that's just announced. That will be fun. I have nothing else more on Twisted Church. Again, I'm excited to see more of their events. I'm excited to see guys fight for 10K. I like that they're paying guys big money, and it's really cool to see a bunch of ADCC talent showcase kind of on a whim that we didn't know was happening. So if you have an event that you are putting on that features guys of that talent, please send us a DM or somebody that listens to the show, DM me with this kind of stuff, because
especially if it's these fun little, especially big money tournaments, because sometimes people go all out for big money tournaments.
I love watching. I also we talked about this for 5+ years in the show. I love seeing professional grapplers get paid.
Yeah,
it was such a big thing, and Wagner's talked about it and why he didn't do EBI for a while. It was you're not guaranteed one. I beat everyone and then didn't get paid because he didn't sub anyone in regulation.
Yeah.
And it's I like seeing guys getting paid.
Oh, that was the other thing. Twisted Church, for their 10K event, their next event, it's going to be $5K for every submission or something like that.
Ooh.
Or not 5K.
500?
500 for every submission.
Yeah.
On top of the 10K.
But I like that.
Which is good.
I like seeing the pros get paid.
Yeah,
I like seeing them get paid. So that's awesome.
You get less annoying, boring matches.
Yeah, if guys are willing to go for it, there's a little bit extra because you get paid.
Yeah.
So, moving on, let's talk about GrappleFest 12. So, Miranda helped me out a lot here because I was it's Andy Varela versus Dante Leon. When did PJ Barch drop out? And I think that Andy Varela dropped out a month ago.
Maybe not a month ago. Maybe a week ago.
Because it's basically
2 weeks ago.
Whenever we kind of pull the curtain aside here, whenever we preview something, I tend to always, because we've done this for enough years, I tend to always pull it from a couple of sources in case there are dropouts. Sometimes certain places have the dropout, certain times they don't. And I'm looking at the GrappleFest Instagram, and I'm like, well, PJ Barch is still up there, but on the Fight TV, it's still Andy Varela.
Yeah.
And then Miranda goes, scroll down. And I scroll down, and on the earlier post, it's Andy Varela, and I was like, oh, PJ Barch.
Which makes sense because they're both 10th Planet, though they both went against each other at West Coast Trials, right? Wasn't that two of them going against each other? No, it was Andy Varela versus he beat it's another 10th Planet person. I can't think of it off the top of my head. My brain just died.
Put me on the spot, Miranda.
I know. West Coast Trials, because Andy Varela won West Coast Trials. And who did he win?
No, he didn't win. He lost in the finals very, very close.
Against who?
Miranda, why you got to pull this up
I don't
midway
know,
through? So
you're supposed to know
this match is going to be very fun. I think Dante Leon is currently the champion for GrappleFest at under 80 kilograms, I think was the weight that he is the champion at. And PJ Barch is coming off an amazing performance at West Coast Trials.
He is.
Looked great. And East
Coast Trials were amazing too.
Yeah. He's looked great ever since the knee injury he had at the previous West Coast Trials in 2019. Since he was off for about a year, and then he came back, and he's looked looked in rare form like he has looked for a couple of years now. I am excited about this matchup because Dante Leon has had a couple tough matches on GrappleFest again, especially as the champion. I'm very curious.
He lost to William Tackett.
That's who, yeah. Varela lost to Tackett in a really close match.
But he did go against PJ Barch, and that was semifinals.
Yeah.
I remember watching it.
Because we watched it on the big stage.
Because it was 10th Planet versus 10th Planet. That's the only reason I remember this.
It was a big fun weekend of being very confused for a while about how many matches
and also the time change messed with my head. But anyway.
So I'm curious to see how the wrestling plays in this one. Because GrappleFest, typically we see Dante wrestle.
Yeah.
And really willing to wrestle. We've seen him pull versus Kate or versus Ty.
And this is a rematch. This is a rematch from Nogi Worlds last year.
Was it last year or the year before?
2021.
Was 2021. Mm-hmm. Dante took that, correct?
Dante took it by an advantage.
Yeah, there was a really, really close match.
Yeah. It was both of them up for a while. They kind of took turns. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I forget exactly how the advantage came about, but it was a very, very close match.
This will be a wrestling match. Or we're going to see Dante willing to play the guard, and we're going to see Barch's outside passing game and his like variation of Toriano and knee cut game. He's going to try to cycle through. I think Dante's inversions are good enough to probably be able to stop that. It kind of makes me want to go back and watch Dante Leon versus Michael Galvao, because I think the pace that Barch is going to put on Dante is going to be similar to that match.
Okay.
But I don't really know. I'm trying to think of like other analogs. We've seen the first match.
Yeah.
I don't think the dynamic of that match changes, because Dante and PJ are both guys that are pretty comfortable in their game and not really going to deviate from their game.
They both have a gas tank, so neither's really able to kind of.
Neither guy's going to wilt under pressure.
Yeah, neither. They're both going to keep on going.
Right.
They both have some sort of wrestling background. PJ was
we saw Varela make Barch a little tired, but Varela made everyone tired in a way that like is pretty
Varela's also
unique.
tall and imposing.
Varela's also big for 77.
Yeah, he's a big, tall dude.
Yeah, Varela I think was one of the bigger guys that we saw at 77. I mean, he was. I didn't want to say he dwarfed over Tackett, but there was like a visible size difference there for Varela, and Tackett's again not a small 77 guy. I really don't know how this is going to go. I usually always in these kind of matchups lean to the champion, lean to Dante, who has just a little more experience with the super high level guys.
You're also fighting against the fact that they're fighting across the pond. Mm-hmm. You never know how that's gonna affect them.
Dante has a little more experience, like fighting GrappleFest. He's been the champion for 1 or 2 fights now. He's been on GrappleFest for probably, I think.
Since
the beginning.
He's the interim champion because
Lachlan still has
the title. But Lachlan's been in England because I watched him do a leg lock seminar in Belgium.
He's doing seminars over there.
He's in Belgium.
He's in Europe right now.
Yeah, so I know he's coming around. So he needs to come back competing.
He needs to come back to GrappleFest. I want to see him fight.
You're the champion. You should lose your belt if you don't compete for it.
So who do you think, Miranda? What's your pick here? And do you think? I think it goes decision. I don't see either of these guys submitting. I know you love to go picks.
I'm going to go PJ because I like PJ.
Is there any other like technical reason?
I think PJ has been working on his passing a lot. I think if it comes down to a wrestling match, Dante will over wrestle him, because I think at some point PJ will pull and just play that game, because that's what they did at Nogi Worlds.
Right.
I see PJ maybe pulling faster than Dante.
Okay.
Like if they were going to wrestle, then one of them has to pull, because if not, it's just going to be a boring ass wrestling match. One of them's going to pull.
The whole time.
I would see PJ pulling faster than Dante pulling, but maybe I'm wrong with that.
So do you think that Barch's bottom game can contend with Dante's passing? Because Dante is not really as much of an explosive. He is a pretty explosive passer, but he's more of a pressure passer nowadays than I think Barch, that really likes to mess with the distance and the timing there.
Yeah. But, I mean, if Dante pulls, I think PJ could pass him. Because PJ has also been working, like I did a couple seminars with him, and he's been working a lot of different outside passing that he specifically has been doing mostly for the Riatolo brothers. Like most of it was him trying to figure out how to kind of beat them at their own game. But like a lot of, kind of going to north-south and then dropping from north-south.
Right. Because again, especially for the guys at the low weight classes like 77, that's really how you have to pass nowadays for the men and for the women.
Well, because the legs are going to come back in if you don't pass all the way to north-south. It's just
right. You have to get around the legs in a way that like most guys, unless you really flatten them out and can like get your chest super low to them, north-south is just a safer place to control them to get your points.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I think they're pretty even, but I would like to see PJ.
I think this is a very, very close match. I can see pathways to both. Again, I'm not going to pick. When I ever it's close, I pick for the champion. So I think it'll be interesting next week, because one of us will go, one of us will get the dynamic of the match correct.
I'm not going to be here, so it doesn't really matter.
Well, yeah, we'll be in the chat. We'll be in the chat going, hey, Miranda, you got it. So that is PJ Barch versus Dante Leon. A match I'm super excited for this match.
Yeah, that'll be a fun match.
This should be fire. Very,
and it'll
very
be
excited.
in the middle of the afternoon. Jack, watch this on the plane.
Oh yeah, I love GrappleFest. Is a great,
because it's like right in the middle.
It's like 11 a.m. It starts about 11 a.m. and I get to it's like get back from training and like got some GrappleFest. Have a great day. Watch it live while I eat some lunch. Like Perfect time, GrappleFest. Thank you for being in England.
Yeah, and it's not like late night where you're like falling asleep and trying to.
You're not still on the main card at 10 a.m. 10 p.m. Thanks UFC. So moving on, next match. Amped for this match.
Yeah,
this is Ash Williams, ADCC Trials European Champion versus Keith Krikorian, ADCC Trials West Coast Trials Champion. This is gonna be a banger. Keith started a Patreon. He's like doing technical stuff. I think it's like $5 a month.
It's only like, did you see it's like $100 a month for feet picks?
Really? I didn't see that. Is that real?
It's there. Yeah. It goes to $25 a month if you want like him to break your shit, like break
I actually
videos down
that's
and
something
stuff,
that I legitimately
which I think
like,
would be fun.
Would pay for. Like I actually thought I was like, ooh, I might pay for a month.
So yeah, it's like 25, and then it jumps from 25 to 100, and 100 is feet picks.
That's great. Yeah, because the baseline level is $5, and then and if you watch, so Keith at the beginning of quarantine.
Oh, and I think $25 is also seminars. Like he puts his seminars on there.
Oh, really? Yeah, again, because Krikorian has some great information. If he put out a technique, like 2 different, not free, but they were really, really cheap, like $20, like hour and a half.
I think they were free for a bit because Reddit was like going wild about them being free. At some point, I don't think they are now.
I bought them for everyone in the grappling rewind because I was like, yeah, let me support Keith because I watched it and I was like, oh, this is actually Quran techniques. It was a really good, like instructional, basically him breaking down like I think it was like 20 or 40 techniques. I was going to
ask you if it was worth, if it's $5 a month for community and 3 to 4 technique videos. It's $10 for match breakdown, 3 to 4 technique videos, $15 for that plus live training footage, $25, all of that, but seminar footage and a 30-minute question and answer, and $100 for feet picks.
Feet picks. Keith, you get it. I hope. Again, guys make their money. Again, Krikorian's a really good instructor, has a lot of knowledge. So that was, again, something that happened this week in news.
I thought about getting it myself, but right now I'm trying to do all the Marcelo stuff, so I need to get through the Marcelo stuff.
Right now I'm trying to book ADCC, and then we'll talk. But so let's talk about the matchup here. These guys haven't met each other, right? Before?
No, they were. The only thing I could find is a 2018 finishers tournament in which Keith won and had a belt, and Ash was on the undercard
versus John Battle.
Yeah. So, but I couldn't find where they've ever went against each other.
Yeah, again, both these guys have been on the grind for a long time.
Are they both 77s?
66.
Keith is a 66.
He cuts. He cuts.
Yeah, I always think he's a 77.
Well, because Keith got real big there for a little bit, and then but Keith is historically a guy that's bounced between 45 and 55. Like he'll make 45, but he's cutting to get down there with his wrestling background. But 55, he is pretty comfortable a lot of times at 55.
Yeah.
But he does 45 for like big events. He'll cut to 66 or 45 to make it down there. But he always talks about like, it's rough to get down there.
Yeah. I like Keith.
I like Keith. I like Ash too. Like this is a fun matchup. I'm going to give the edge to Keith here, coming off of that really great.
I think so too.
He's been on a tear. He's been on a tear.
Yeah.
Just like that sub of Cisneros in the finals was super impressive, and his entire run up and all the kind of adversity he went through, and like
even his East Coast trials run was
amazing, and then he runs with Cole Abate. He was like the prodigy, and in the sport right now, 16-year-old Cole Abate.
He beat Gianni Grippo. He's back.
Late in again, he was down in that match and comes back to take Grippo's back. Like I just think that Krikorian is probably going to take Ash down. And Ash Williams has a really crafty guard, but Williams wants to be on top. Yeah. Like he really wants to play top and impose from top. He has a great mount control game. He has a great ability to kind of force the back take and put heavy pressure you into on top. But I think that Krikorian is going to be a guy that Williams will struggle to put there and will be like really struggle to hold down positionally. Because when I interviewed Keith after ADCC. He talked about some of the changes that he had made to his game. That interview's up on YouTube if you want to watch it. Keith Krikorian, ADCC West Coast Trials interview on the Grappling Rewind YouTube page.
We interviewed him like right after he won.
Yeah.
He was still kind of flabbergasted.
Mm-hmm. And you're just guys yelling to him in the background while we're doing the interview.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's a good match. It's really good. That's one of the interviews at West Coast Trials I was really happy to get.
Yeah.
But he talks about basically changing his game a little bit and not being as submission focused, because a lot with the really good guys, again, like Ash Williams.
He would spam people with a million different submissions, but he wasn't actually trying for anything in particular.
Right. And they talked about like locking down a more positional game, because, hey, it's like sometimes you got to beat guys on the point. You have to beat guys in a positional game. Yeah. And then once you're doing that, it opens up your opportunities for the sub. And so I think this match will kind of, that experience and that sort of change of training is going to come through in Keith. We're going to see him like be more willing to not get into just a firefight with Ash Williams, who's, again, another super dangerous submission artist.
Oh, yeah.
And will be kind of looking to lock him down, looking to out-wrestle, looking to kind of continue to push him into places we saw at ADCC, and then potentially look for the sub. I don't know if we're going to see him get into a leg lock battle with Williams, or if we're going to see him just sort of try to grind Williams out in the places that we typically see Ash Williams try to grind people out on top.
Yeah.
But I think that, again, after his performances recently, I am very few people outside of the ADCC bracket would I bet against Krikorian for. What do you think?
No, I'm going Krikorian.
I'm Krikorian here. But very fun. Again, I like that we're getting trials winner versus trials winner.
Yeah.
You know, North America versus UK, versus South versus Southern Europe. It's one of those weeks already. Let's see. So next matchup we have Owen O'Flanagan versus John Thorblank. John took third at fourth at ADCC 2019.
Yep.
Owen O'Flanagan is I always think Owen is a 77 guy.
No, he's
an
under
88. I've been getting that wrong for like years now. He won the European trials at 88. The second European trials or the first one? Do you know?
I don't know about that.
I pulled it up and I've already forgotten.
I want to say
2020. First European.
Yeah,
trials.
I want to say first only because we covered the second, and I don't remember seeing his name in the second, because he has a very interesting spelling to his name.
Yeah, it's spelled the Irish way?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Either Irish or Scottish, but it's definitely maybe Welsh. I don't know, but definitely that area.
This is a tough one. Again, I want to lean John Thorblank pretty hard here, because we've seen, again, Owens he made big improvements for ADCC. He looked great winning that in the trials at Europe. But we've seen him on Polaris before versus Jeremy Skinner and Tarek Hopstock, 2 different leg lock losses.
Yeah.
And if there's one thing that Thor is really, really good at.
Oh, no, we're not. Okay.
No, I'm not.
I got confused for a second. I was like, oh, shit, we're looking at the wrong one.
If there's one thing that Thor is really, really good at,
is leg locks.
It is heel hooks and leg locks. Again, ADCC, he has a heel hook win over Rustam Chisaev, a guy that is notoriously impossible to his legs. He has a heel hook win over Roberto Jimenez at the first ADCC trials in the West Coast trials in 2019. He has a win over Sloan Clymer by points. He has a win over Adam Wardzinski and Manuel Hibamar by inside heel hook at GrappleFest 8, and Fight to Win 154. Like, really, really strong leg locker.
Yeah.
And I think that is a place that we have seen Owen struggle. And I think that Thor is a guy that, we'll definitely see the improvements from Owen if he's able to deal with that. I think that will kind of be a forecast for how he looks in ADCC. But again, we haven't seen Thor since Who's Number One.
Yeah.
Where he had that match. I think, didn't he hurt his knee?
Yeah, it was a reverse triangle, but I think he blew his knee.
He popped his knee. Jacob, he subbed Jacob Couch with a reverse triangle.
Yeah, and then Jacob Couch wound up coming back in.
Because Thor blew his knee out.
Yeah.
So I'm also curious to see how Thor's recovery is going. I haven't got a chance to I haven't talked to him in a bit. So I'm curious to see how his recovery is going, but this will be the first time we're seeing him since that. But he is, again, such a strong leg locker. I would be a bit surprised if we don't see that come into play here, given kind of the stylistic matchup. But again, coming off an injury, having not competed in a little bit since 2021, I think Who's Number One was like June of last year, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was almost a year ago at this point. So that should be a very, very fun match. Do you have any kind of different dynamics on the matchup?
No,
I think Thor will probably pull. We've seen him pull before in GrappleFest and kind of scoot forward, force you coming to guard. Owen's going to try to pass on the outside. I think we'll see Thor invert And I think either he'll kind of get a read about how Owen's going to deal with that, or he'll be able to entangle Owen there and sort of get into the battle that he wants to have there. But regardless, should be a super fun matchup. Also on the card, we have Tom Breeze versus Jacob Couch.
Yep, and Tom Breeze is a former UFC fighter. He's still fighting MMA.
He's still fighting. I thought he retired, and then he's not. He fought I think he fought like a month, like 2 months ago or something like that. Like just over 2 months ago. And Jacob Couch.
He's been on GrappleFest before too, so he has a extensive.
Breeze has been on GrappleFest a couple times.
Yeah,
Couch has been on GrappleFest before.
Yeah, he's just not an MMA fighter. Like he has an extensive grappling background.
He's been.
He's on Polaris. He's
been on Polaris once or twice, I think. He's been on GrappleFest 6, GrappleFest 7. We've covered him a couple of times on the show. His most recent Polaris match, we saw him get outpointed by Freddie Voskurov.
Yeah.
In that match, for this match, I'm gonna lean pretty heavily with Couch.
Yeah, me too.
I think that Couch is going to... Breeze is going to be really strong in a way that
But I think Couch, especially with the false reap to a heel hook, he has that down pat. He has it fast.
The fact that you can set that up on Gordon Ryan, and Gordon Ryan all of a sudden stops playing a little bit, and that is almost the most trouble we've seen.
He made him think for a second.
That's the most trouble we've seen Gordon in since the Wagner match, where also for like a little bit there, he was like, I got to stop playing around a little bit and kind of put some pressure on you. I think that's where he leans. I think he goes into the false reap. I think Tom Breeze tries to hip heist out of it.
Yeah.
Couch gets his hips back down. Or we see Couch pull here and we see Breeze play really, really heavy far away on the outside and never really give Couch a chance to come in and force Couch to try to overextend. But I think
Couch also isn't horrible on top. Like it's not like he
has a good top game.
Yeah, he's just not he's not that single dimensional has to pull.
No.
I mean he can pull. And the false reap to the heel hook is what he has done in the past.
Yeah.
But I think if he was put into a situation where Tom Breeze was being kind of on the outside and trying to pass too far away on the outside, that it would be easy enough for him to come up.
Right.
And start, either back to a wrestling match on the feet or something that's, not as...
Yeah. I'm just curious how, again, I don't really recall a ton about Tom Breeze's wrestling. And again, we've seen it mostly in MMA.
Yeah.
So it's, and especially early career, he has a lot more submissions before he gets into the UFC.
Yeah.
I am curious to see if Couch is going to lean into his wrestling more and try to contend with... impose on Breeze in the wrestling phase up top in order to get him onto the bottom. But I think that false reap on Gordon makes me go, ooh, you're really good at that.
And he's been doing that for a while on matches.
We saw. Look, I mean, Couch's last match on GrappleFest, I think, was a decision.
Yeah,
he wasn't able to finish, and I think that Breeze, again, being an MMA fighter, is probably going to watch the tape on that, see what worked, and see where Couch is really looking to go, and study the tape footage. Yeah. You're 2 months off of a fight. You've had a little time to kind of take on other endeavors like GrappleFest. So I'm very curious how he's going to do this. I doubt that Breeze is able to sub Couch, but he might be able to push an activity pace on Couch. If Couch gets complacent, kind of waiting for Breeze to enter his game, it may be a little closer than I would like it. Although I'm going to pick Couch here by sub. Just because that Gordon match, that entry impressed me so much, and Couch has looked very, very good at East Coast trials, at West Coast trials, at Who's Number One. Again, his ability to punch up with the heel hooks for guys like Jimenez, he's got a very, very strong leg lock game. And young guys that punch up hard with leg locks have shown over and over and over again that man, that's something to... Again, Thor used to be that guy. Where it's man, that is something to contend with a lot of guys.
Couch also has a triangle that's pretty legit.
Yeah, his
triangle
from the bottom is really nice.
His triangle from bottom.
He's got
pretty
very
amazing.
Flexible legs in a way that you wouldn't expect for a guy that's as big as he is.
Because he is big. He is not a little man.
Look, go watch the interview I did with him at trials, and you can see I'm a small dude.
I've stood beside
Couch is
I've stood beside Couch before, and I'm like, whoa, you're
Couch is
much bigger
shoulders
than I
ahead of me.
Yeah.
Or are taller than me, and that was a fun interview. I enjoyed the interview with him. But yeah, he's a big dude, and so it's cool to see him have the flexibility in the triangle game that he has. And this is actually the first match we'll see him. Maybe not first match since West Coast trials. He's now taken the Gordon Ryan seminar. He's had the Gordon Ryan match. He's spent some time in the room learning from Gordon, and I'm curious to see if we see a little bit of that come out in a way that we haven't before versus Brees. But I'm still going to kind of pick heavy on Couch here by sub.
Yeah, me too.
Next on the card, we have John Hathaway versus Jack Grant. I think both these guys have been on GrappleFest before. Should be a fun matchup. We have Owen Livesley versus Michael Pixley.
Yeah.
So this is
it should be an interesting
This
match.
is an interesting clash of styles because Michael Pixley is he's a Daisy Fresh guy like Couch. I think there's a couple other Daisy Fresh guys on the card as well.
There is.
And he has
what's it called? The main event.
Pedigree.
He's
Dante.
now,
Dante's Daisy Fresh now.
Dante's
Yep.
Daisy Fresh now. But yeah, Pixley is NCAA
Division 2
champion.
And he's also we pulled up
wrestling.
something else on him earlier that was an NIAI.
I think it is.
This is when we need Rob. Hey, Rob,
we need to know what exactly that means.
Not gonna lie, but it's
some sort of wrestling. I mean, he's in the Wrestling Hall of Fame.
It's some sort of wrestling.
It's I don't know what division it is.
Pixley is one of those quote unquote blue belts. He won Blue Belt Worlds. He's looked good at trials. Really, really adept American wrestler. Owen Livesley has a Greco background and a judo background.
Olympic judo.
And we saw him on trials in the finals at ADCC last week.
Yep.
Versus New Wave guy.
Yeah.
Blanking on his name.
Dave? Big Dave? No.
Nope, not Big Dave. The other guy.
I'm going.
They won trials.
Luke Griffith. With the fireman carry.
With the fireman carry that Griffith turned into almost like a back take and then flipped him over. Livesley has been a really fun guy to watch in the UK.
Yeah, because he just
recently.
throws people around.
He's got a really nice
he has a
Greco tie.
He has a Greco stand. His whole
Greco.
his
It's a combination of Greco and judo in a really scary
because
way.
I didn't really pick up on it being it is judo because he's very up.
Well, Greco's kind of like that too.
But yeah.
But a lot of it is from the shoulders, and he's really, really good in the hand fight. If you ever watch really good Greco guys, they stand really similar to how Owen stands.
Yeah, it does.
In a way where they're gonna pummel with their hands and with their wrists and just the forearms.
Yeah.
And they're gonna get inside ties. They're gonna get underneath you. They're big lift guys.
Yeah.
And I'm curious because I bet we get into a waving contest to see who's got the better wrestling. Because both of these guys, when you see them fight,
I mean, but I don't think it'll be a boring wrestling
match. No. Because Owen's always exciting. Pixie's pretty exciting himself.
And Owen is the type that I feel like he's gonna push no matter what.
Owen is the guy that likes to make a highlight.
Yeah.
And I respect.
And he even said that after his fireman carry, and he lost. He was like, "Yeah, well, it kind of looked cool, and I thought it was a good idea. It wasn't a good idea."
But again, I
appreciate
that on pro fights, on pro cards because
you want activity.
I want activity, and I want exciting.
And out of that match, what do people remember?
That dope ass fireman.
They remember the fireman carry. They don't remember who won that shit.
So
anyway,
I'm curious to see if we get how the Greco will
versus freestyle
versus the freestyle.
Yeah, I think he was more of I don't think he was a Greco guy because I didn't.
Right.
Yeah.
No, Michael Pixley is definitely a freestyle guy.
Yeah.
Or a folk style guy. Definitely coming from America.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to see if these guys decide to have a wrestling battle.
Yeah.
How that looks because that could go either way.
Yeah.
Again, I want to give the edge to Pixley, just given the recency of his scholastic wrestling credentials in the United States.
Yeah.
But Owen is a guy that has consistently been really exciting to watch and big lifts, big power.
Competing.
Mm-hmm. Well, he also has a lot of power.
Yeah.
In ways that we don't see from a lot of guys. He has a style that is unique.
Yeah.
In the way that he will grip you and throw you. And Pixley, I think, will have a good counter game off of that.
Yeah.
But I think both these guys are going to decide to wrestle each other.
So I actually bought Owen's takedown instructional on Jiu-Jitsu X, I think it is. And which is when I realized he has an accent.
Is it gi or no gi?
It's no gi.
Okay. I assume, but I just didn't know.
He definitely also does a really good job bringing together a bunch of takedowns. Mm-hmm. So there's always these chains.
Yeah, his chains are really good.
And that's the only thing I don't think that I think that Michael Pixley is probably I mean, he's an NCAA wrestler, so he definitely. But I don't know if he has the same kind of breadth of knowledge
in jiu-jitsu.
In jiu-jitsu wrestling, because jiu-jitsu wrestling is different than regular wrestling.
Absolutely.
You know?
And we've seen plenty of guys that struggle to make the transition over. I don't think Pixley, again, given the performance we saw him do at IBJJF No-Gi Worlds and in trials, like I think he's going to have that problem.
I think he does well, but I think you have somebody that is a complete meatball that's going against you.
Yeah. Is Owen a black belt?
Yeah.
I think, he's okay. That's what I thought.
He's a black belt in judo.
In judo and jiu-jitsu, correct? Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
And again, in quotes here, Pixley's a blue belt, but like, you're a world-class level blue belt. Like that belt gets really, who we fooling here with?
Yeah, but that's one of those IBJJF bullshit things.
Right.
Where you have to be
for this long to keep competing, and I understand it. So I kind of want to lean Owen on this one.
I'm going Owen.
Yeah, I think Owen. I just think that like he will have more experience in the wrestling.
Yeah.
I think Pixley's going to be faster in the transition for scrambles off it.
Pixley had more jiu-jitsu background.
Yeah.
Then I think I would pick Pixley over Owen. Mm-hmm. Because I think Owen, his fault comes into wanting the takedown, and sometimes you can see him get kind of caught up in the takedown.
He gets tunnel vision on it.
And he wants that takedown, and if you know how to get around him while doing that, then you can take advantage of that.
Right.
And
and that's what we saw last week with Luke Griffith.
I think if Pixley had more of a jiu-jitsu background, or if, he has someone who's training him right now to look for that.
Right. He's at Daisy Fresh.
You could get him,
guys.
Yeah, you could get him in a scramble. Like a random scramble.
But I think that the power differential will come in, and Owen will Owen just has a little bit greater depth of experience
imposing.
Here and can impose a little more effectively in the jiu-jitsu areas.
The other GrappleFest match, Owen had a was it a mat return or was it a suplex? It was something.
It was both.
He has these crazy ass like high energy takedowns. Yeah. So he's gonna have to survive that.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go Owen here. Yeah, I'm actually gonna take him by decision. I don't think he'll finish Pixley, but I think that he will push, and kind of he will put Pixley a little bit on the defensive and force him to kind of like be on the outside.
Yeah.
Again, seeing Pixley take this wouldn't surprise me, but I just think stylistically for the matchup, I want to lean into Owen for this one.
Yeah, I would lean into decision only because of how they both kind of behave.
Yeah.
But Owen over Pixley.
Mm-hmm. But it should be a really fun match. Next match, we have Pierre Oliver Leclerc,
That's quite which is
versus Jack Tively.
I don't know Jack Tively, and he's 50-50. I should know.
He's 50-50.
You should know him. He's local.
Yeah, we've seen him before.
Yeah.
I tried. If you go watch what threw me off here is I forgot. So if you see the GrappleFest poster for GrappleFest 12, Pierre is in a full TriStar tracksuit with circle like John Lennon glasses that are all like blacked out.
Yeah,
and
he looks like a Russian mafia boss.
He looks like a guy going to the Olympics that is like trying to sit like put on a strong face for his country because he's excited to be there.
Yeah, I can see that. But
he's a young Olympic athlete.
He is French.
Yeah, he's French Canadian.
So that tells you enough.
He's a TriStar guy. Or is he TriStar still, or is he?
He's still.
Is he B team?
He's both, I think.
Okay.
I think he jumps back and forth.
Yeah, he was like Taza and like Ethan and like him. We're kind of the three guys.
But he's like old school TriStar. Yeah.
Yeah. He's
been there forever.
Those three guys. You pulling up Jack?
Yeah, I'm trying to pull him up. He's an MMA fighter.
Okay. I like watching Pierre Leclerc.
He was on GrappleFest 10 and GrappleFest 5.
Yeah, we've covered him before, and that's why I'm annoyed that I'm like forgetting who he is.
He went against Lawrence Fitzpatrick and Josh Sherrington.
Yep.
Triangle choke and heel hook.
So this is a fun matchup again. I lean Pierre. Because Pierre has been a little bit on the bigger stage a little longer, but Jack is definitely a guy based on what you've said that we've seen before on GrappleFest, submitting on GrappleFest. I think he was on the undercard at the beginning of the main card on the two GrappleFests.
He was on Polaris too, so he's been around.
So that's
interesting.
That should be a fun matchup.
Being his 50-50, I would have expected to see more of him in the area.
I don't know if it's just he just has on a 50-50 rash guard or if that's what he's repping. So that could be the way
that's
too.
That's my mess up. And if you just behind the curtain, 50-50 is a gym owned by Ryan Hall that's in Falls Church, Virginia.
Correct. Yep.
And so it's relatively local to us.
Yeah.
So those guys, especially the high level guys from 50-50, we see in local tournaments.
Yeah. When we see him, we get him before everyone else does.
Yeah,
when they're still like, oh, I got a 50-50 guy.
And you're like, fuck.
And you're like, oh man, it's like cool. I'm not going to 50-50 on this.
Yeah, we're not
like,
going to 50-50.
He's in a rash guard that has the name of a position on it.
Yeah, you're like, no, I'm not going.
I'm going to avoid that.
Not going with that position. So yeah,
I think definitely in like years past, it was like you see a 50-50 guy, and the team has gotten much bigger now. So there's kind of there's a diversity of levels there now. But 5 years ago, 7 years ago,
they had a bunch of really good guys there recently training with them. A lot of people come through
Hall and Hall was training at Topanga, or somebody else had a fight coming up, and they pulled a bunch of big guys.
Well, Hall's doing trials.
No, Hall's got an invite.
That's what I mean, or not trials.
He's doing world championships.
He's doing championships.
Yeah. He got in. So next match we have Shane Fishman versus Max Bickerton, and we have Dom Dillon versus I can never get his name. I had it on the pre-show. Baclaret. We've seen him on bunch on the European cards. Always a guy that brings it. Always a guy that's a lot of fun. Really nice sub game. So that should be fun. And also we have Rocha Waltz versus Suella Me Lowenthal. So that is GrappleFest 12. I'm looking forward to it. This should be a really fun card.
I'm going to try
TV.
to catch it. Yeah, I'm going to try to catch it on the plane or in the airport.
I think the pay-per-view is like $20.
Oh, that's not too bad.
It's not too bad, but also like again, I'll watch. There's 6 matches on this card that I'm like, I'll pay $2 a piece for those matches and be pretty happy I did it.
Yeah, that the whole main card is definitely
is absolutely stacked. I think there's also an undercard that doesn't have some matches up yet.
Yeah.
So it should be a bunch of fun. I'm very, very excited for it. You're out on travel next week. Do you have any other?
I'm going to Mexico. I think I'm going to go to Gracie Baja. There's one. I think that's where my one friend trains sometimes. So
nice.
We're going to go there and then I'll be back.
That should be fun. You guys vacation?
Yeah, a couple days away.
Okay. Basically, you're not going for work. Correct?
No, not this time around. No, and then I have to come back and I have to go to Alabama and Ohio for work.
Okay.
So it's gonna be a lot of traveling the next couple weeks, but
fun.
Hopefully, I can build up those travel miles so I can get some free airfare.
Oh no, we got to go to ADCC and like. I see,
oh no, I have to go to ADCC.
I like that there's more and more events that are like coming up that I'm like, okay, and now that my back's healed and I can travel like comfortably, I'm excited to go. Like, going to West Coast Trials was awesome to be in those rooms again and see those people and get to interview them and talk to them. It's like, oh man, this is why, like that. I love doing the show every week.
Yeah.
But those are the things that remind me of like, oh yeah, that's really fun to do. And like, I love being able to talk to them and share that.
When
we
go to championships, we're going out early because if we do compete that week, we need to be out a couple days before.
Because there's the Open. I think a couple of people we're coming with are going to the Open.
Yeah.
And then I just want to be there because I want to get a lot more. I really want to do a ton of work when I'm there and get like I'm probably buying like a really nice new camera. Probably buying like not an R5 but like an Canon RP.
Yeah.
I'm gonna buy that for myself to get like some good photos because the sensor does better than low light.
I'm gonna train.
Yeah.
Because we didn't get to train a lot last time.
I'm going to train too, but like that's why we're getting in there a week, not a week early, but we're probably getting in there on Monday.
Days,
so that we can like have the week to like watch the Hall of Fame seminar and like take part on all the ADCC festivities. We're going to like a concert when we're there. We're doing the Open when we're there.
Concert's not related, but it's kind of related.
It's absolutely related. It's part of our fun trip that we've earned by going out, to Vegas to do all that.
It's kind of a random. It's kind of a random thing that's just occurring in Vegas at the same time.
Yeah,
but it's
so
great.
we're going.
Yeah,
so that'll be fun. But I want to get there early so that I can like have time to adjust and like enjoy Vegas a little bit.
I showed your wife too. There's a distillery that has an underground circus. It's a burlesque circus underground.
Fun. Let's do that.
Yeah, that is at a distillery.
Let's do that.
So you like pay a little bit of money and you go out and you watch all these circus performers and drink. Yeah.
That's cool. But again, like we're in Vegas, because trials, we were Vegas for like a couple of days and we did trial stuff for 12 hours a day.
And it was a lot more. And with flights being all jacked up, it just wound up being a very stressful.
It was a very tough trip.
Yeah,
it was fun. I would do it again.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a good time.
But like we all kind of realized like let's give ourselves a couple of extra days to kind of screw around in Vegas a little bit. Like we'll have Monday and Tuesday to get in, get acclimated, hang out. Wednesday stuff starts to get going. We still have the day. Thursday we start to get really into ADCC, like with the event.
Yeah.
Friday's weigh-ins. Saturday, Sunday. And then Monday, I think we're either going to fly or like have a day to
probably flying back Monday.
Get ready to do that.
Thought process at least.
But that's the plan. So I'm excited to do hopefully a ton of interviews and some coverage to hopefully, I want to follow some guys around a little bit to do some coverage, like almost more like not vlog style stuff, but just get a little more, be able to share a little bit more behind the scenes stuff that people don't get an opportunity to see, to showcase some of the really interesting people that are there that like I am interested in showcasing, that are on the rise, that don't get as much kind of recognition, that are still on that level. Because that is what we started doing the show for, is like guys like Craig Jones in 2017, where you're like, this guy's really good. Why don't we know stuff about him? And like, he has this personality to him, and this kind of like, why haven't we been following this guy for like 3 years? Because he's super interesting. ADCC is a jumping off point for people like that.
Hopefully we don't have another like pink eye event.
I hope. I hope we don't have something like that. So,
I mean, everybody didn't get COVID the last time, so that's positive.
I know. So I'm just hoping. We've got a couple months, booking flights this week. Very, very excited for it. Anything else going on?
I don't think so.
Right.
That's about it.
So, as always in the show, I'm your host, Maine. I'm the co-host,
Miranda.
And we have the grappling around. You see on the mat, whatever it is. Stay safe. If you like the show, please consider sharing it on Facebook with the folks at your gym. It's the best way that we grow the show, and we really appreciate it. You can reach out to us on email.
We also have Instagram. We have Facebook. We have Twitter. We have Google+.
Until that shuts down.
We have a website.
If you have an event you would like to have us cover, please let us know. If you have a name, like most people do, and you'd like to have us stop butchering it,
let us know.
Reach out to us. The show is also available on YouTube, Spotify, in addition to iTunes and every other podcast service. We very much appreciate your time, and thank you.